it's kind of weird. I guess I didn't think this out, but you have 3 things that are due tonight at midnight. Midnight now, thanks to Nicole.
Sorry again for making you spend hours changing everything.
It took me like half hour. It's no big. It's just kind of, I don't know if there's a automated way to do it. Yeah, it's good. I did it for the other classes, just for the heck of it. Why not? Has anybody been watching Tim's videos at all? Has anybody needed to? Or do you find them valuable?
Yeah.
Can you guys see the board and everything, or is it?
It's definitely at an angle, but
It's at an angle, but you can't see it.
but most of the stuff you say, you kind of speak on like where you're writing. So
Right, so that helps. Yeah, I try to.
So I think they're a little bit quiet, but if you turn it up and put captions on, it works. I could, yeah, if I just had some time to edit, sorry about that.
Oh no, you're doing everybody a favor. That's great.
Well, I'm
Thanks
glad
for
if it's
doing that.
working.
So any questions from anybody about anything before we dive in? Everybody's good? I enjoyed listening to all of your audios and videos, and everybody did very well. Very good. Very good job. It's good to practice talking and answering questions like you're in an interview. It's good. Like I was telling you, like I've been in so many interviews in my life now that I don't get nervous really. And it's always good to, if you think you've answered the question, but you're really not sure, it's always good to just keep talking and start throwing things out, and you might. Because when you're on an interview panel, the interviewers are looking for like one key word, but it might be something like in Python, and they want to hear you say print statement. And they're going to check off the box, right? So just keep talking, and you might get it, it might come out. That was always good advice that was given to me by somebody at the county. Because like at the county, we're not allowed, when you go to an interview, we're not allowed to answer it. We just ask the questions. I might say like, tell us about your experience in GIS, ortho-rectifying aerial photos. And then we just sit back and listen to you talk. And we can't ever say anything else. But then they'll say, at the end of the interview, that's your chance to ask us a question, right? That's your opportunity to go crazy. And then you can ask anything you want at that point. So if you get in an interview like that, where they say, now, do you have any questions for us? I've had guys that will talk for 20 minutes asking us. That's your chance to find out everything they want to find out.
Yesterday I was jumping the gun a bit and it started getting informal throughout the interview and I kept firing back questions, but I still saved some for later when they had asked if I had any questions, but the whole time it felt like I kept jumping the gun.
Oh, really? Oh, you were being like proactive and just asking them more than, yeah, that's good though.
Okay.
I think that's good.
Okay.
So, yeah. That shows that you've done your research and you're really interested in the job. That's good.
Okay, but there will be scenarios where
There'll be
need to hold
things,
them to the
yeah,
end.
like certain companies, and it was definitely true at the county, I think the city too, that they have a policy that you can't say anything. And I've been in there and I just kind of nod and I can see people struggling to get the answer, and I'm just like, and you can't really say like, yeah, you got it. You just gotta, I'm just kind of smiling because I knew the people. A lot of times I worked with them and they were trying to get a raise, to apply for a higher job. But anyway, these interviews are good tonight. I enjoyed everybody's. So yeah, just keep working at it. You guys are doing good. Let me admit everybody. So we do have, Ben's gonna hang around here. If you have a problem with getting VS Code working on your desktop computer, just raise your hand, let Ben know while he's here. And then he will hang around after class too. If any of you have problems and you don't want Ben to help you right now, hang out after class and he's willing to come by.
I'm like 1 for 1. I have one person that worked for, one person that didn't. So
Oh really?
Yeah, my credentials didn't work to send it.
Oh.
So,
Oh.
It's probably gonna have to be the manual.
The
Python.
manual thing you were talking about.
Yeah. It's something funky with the way Pima packaged Python.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's not setting it for.
But it did work for one person.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Okay.
It's just something weird with the way they set the packaging of Python.
Okay.
But
But I
the
think,
quickest, easiest way is probably for you to uninstall it and just reinstall it and have it,
and how do you do that?
and have it, it's installed with the Python tab set for every user on the computer.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go one by one every single time someone switches computers.
Oh, wow. So you have to get a list of everybody in the class and do that.
Yeah, basically. Or, just, I'll probably stop by after your class.
Okay.
There's a window after
Yeah.
your class today
Yeah,
to do it.
yeah. I've got to split like right after class because I've got to go coach
Yeah.
at 3, but, yeah, whatever you want to do is fine.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Just so it doesn't pop again when it happens.
Yeah, I get you. I appreciate you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
All right, guys.
He was with
Let's dive in and let's look at the polls real fast. All right. I brought oh, that's right. My thing doesn't really work, does it? My pointer doesn't work on this thing. Which of these statements is false?
I forgot to go in the meeting.
Using a double equal in place of an equal in an assignment statement can lead to problems. That's true, right? If you say x, this is wrong for sure. I got the good pin of the bad. If I say x equals 5, is that right or wrong? Right? That's wrong, right? Because you're trying to, well, I guess it depends on this context, but if I was trying to assign 5 to x, this would be wrong, right? So that's what this is saying, okay? So that can lead to problems. That's true. They're looking for what's false. Using the assignment symbol instead of the equality in an if statement condition is a common logic error. So you're saying if x equals 5, then print high, for example. That's what they're saying there. Using the assignment statement instead of the equality, this is the equality operator. In an if statement's condition, remember this is the Boolean expression, that's the condition, is a common logic error. That's true. Or that is true. Python requires you to indent statements, and they call them suites or blocks. So this would be, they're calling this suite, everything that's indented. I call it a block. I think your book calls it a suite. I've never heard that before. Same time. Incorrect indentation of the statements in a block can cause errors.
I don't know.
Yeah. No, isn't that false?
So this is right out of your quiz. I think this quiz question's wrong. None of these are false, are they? That's true. That's true. That's true. And that's true. So, if you guys get this one wrong, I don't know what to choose. I guess I could look it up and see what they want.
Maybe the first one, maybe it's not cell problems, it leads to text problems?
I mean, inconsistent indentations can,
I think all these are false. I'll look it up. I'll look it up after class or tonight, actually, because I won't even be home till 8 tonight. I'll look it up and I'll send you guys what the right answer is, okay? Because this looks crazy to me.
I got kicked out of the meeting somehow.
Oh, sorry. Let me add you back in. Oh, I got Tim back in. Go ahead, Richard. Try to get back in. Let's see. Are you? Oh, it looks like are you back in?
Yeah, it's true, back in.
Okay, great. All right, let's look at poll number 2. Or let me end this one. That was a weird one. Okay, this one. Let's launch this one. Which of these statements? This is how they word all their questions. I don't know if I like them. It's like, which of the following is false? You use blank lines and space characters to make code easier to read. That's true. Because Nicholas asked me this, and so did Tony today.
You know, this is what I wanna see on your programs. Start the very first line, you know, you could put your name and just say, my name, whatever your name is. And then you could say CIS 129. And on the second line, you could say.
This one's on the quiz.
What's that?
This one's on the quiz.
I see it.
What is it?
This one's on the quiz.
Oh, yeah, is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
I just thought it was.
Yeah, so, and then put the program name here, like, say this is called statistics.py. And then you could say what it does, you know, it, calculates the mean, calcs the mean and the mode, or something like that. And then you can put some blank lines. These are all blank, and then you can, you know, have set some variables and stuff. Total equals 5, whatever. Put some blank lines, and you can even put inline comments right here. You can say, set total to 5, whatever. This is an inline comment. This is a comment that's across the entire line. So blank lines, and definitely put spaces around all your arithmetic operators. It's just easier to read. Okay, so like Adrian said, okay, blank lines and space characters make it easier to read. Together, blank lines, space, and tab characters are known as white space. That's true. All this is white space. Python allows you to split long code lines in parentheses without using a continuation character. Is that true? Could I say total equals 5 plus 2, like that?
I thought not.
No. You gotta have this in there. Continuation line.
So it looks like it ignores all white spaces would be incorrect, because you might think of indentation, but I went by the definition that we just said was true.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, that did not include indentation, so.
Yeah, you're right. If you have incorrect indentation, you guys already found out this is not gonna work. If this is a tab, and this is a tab, but then I put 3 spaces or something, or 4 spaces, and then I have another print, and then another print, just for kicks, just because it's easy to write. Even though they might look like they're lined up the same way, these 2 are tabs, these are spaces, it's gonna complain. You guys have already found out. You can't mix space and tabs. So this one is false, and this one is true. It ignores, yeah, good point.
If the definition doesn't include
Yeah,
indentation
this is
of
a-
white space.
This is a goofy one because here they're saying a tab character is known as a white space. It's true. It's true. Yeah. I don't know, it could be either one. I would say this is the best answer right here. The third one would be the best answer. Okay. In my opinion. I could look it up. Okay, one more, guys. We haven't got into this yet much, and we're not going to, but you're gonna see it on the quiz. We didn't get into functional programming. I had to take a functional programming class when I was getting my degree, and it was called Lisp. Anybody ever heard of that? Lisp. And we used to say it stood for lots of idiotic semicolons and parentheses. And it's a crazy language. It is crazy. It's called a functional language. And everything is a function. And it might just look like a bunch of 5 times 4, times add 3, 2, stuff like this. It's all, it looks like a lot of this, and we're not gonna get much into it, but the question, you're gonna see this on the quiz, probably. Which of the following statements about functional style programming is false?
Other reductions you'll see include the sum, average, variance, and standard deviation of a collection of values, okay? They're talking about reductions, okay? What a reduction is, don't worry about this, I just want to teach you enough to where you can answer this question. We're not going to get into this anymore in this class. A reduction is simplifying an expression. Okay, so for example, if I had 5 plus 3 times 2, right? I could simplify this, and so the first reduction would be 5 plus, I'm going to do this next, actually first, 6, and then the answer is 11. So I've simplified it to that. Okay, this would be a unique reduction because there's only one thing you can do. But I could write it like this too. I could say 1 plus 5 times 1 plus 5. Let's do 5 times 6. So I can reduce this a couple different ways. I could first say, well, let's do this one first. I'll do 1 plus 5 times, then I'll say 5 times 6 is 30, and then I'll reduce that to 6 times 30, and then 6 times 3 is 18, just add a 0, so it should be 180. Or I could do it, so this is one way, one reduction. Or I could do it the other way and solve this first. So then the second way would be, I do 1 plus 5 is 6 times 5 times 6. And the next one would be 6 times 30, and then we know that's 180. We both come up with the same answer, it's just that I chose one or the other first. This is called a reduction. That's what they're talking about here. So sum, average, variance, and standard deviation are built-in reductions, okay? The min-max function, those are reductions too, okay? We haven't got into those yet. They reduce the collection of values to a single value. Okay, we haven't got into that, but I could do this. I don't think we've got into this, have we? Suppose I had a list, we're gonna get into this today. 1, 2, 0, minus 1. This is a list. My list equals that. I could say print min my list. What do you think that's going to print out? What's the smallest number in that list? Negative 1. Yeah. So min is a reduction. It's taking a list and reducing it down into one value. Okay. So what I want to tell you is the answer. Yeah, functional style programming capabilities, you can write code that is more concise, clear, and easier to debug. That's true, or that's true, right? This is false here. This is the answer. All reductions are built into Python. You cannot define custom reductions. You can define your own. Okay, so I just wanted to let you guys know you can define your own reductions. And there's a function in there called reduce. And you can do help on it if you want. There's a function called reduce where you can define your own reduction. So I just wanted to show you this briefly to help you answer this question on the quiz. We're not going to get into it, so don't worry too much if you don't understand. All right? But if you see this one, this is the answer. Okay. Oh, let me let some more people in. Okay, cool. Now let me swap out.
But I'll be
Okay,
back after.
okay, thanks, Ben.
Yep.
let me switch to my laptop here and we'll start going over our materials today. And we only have class today, not Thursday. So you got a little week off, or a day off anyway. Okay. Let's see if this is gonna work. There we go. All right. So what's due tonight? Module 4 assignment is due tonight. So this is your muffin and coffee calculator thing that most of you have most of you finished that? Because remember we wrote the IPO chart and I kind of helped you out writing it. Is anybody having issues with it? Problem? A little bit? Yeah, shoot me an email or something. I do have to split like right after class today. Track started yesterday, so now I'm pushing track. 55 kids, so if I can get an assistant, be easier. No, but I did have 2 assistant coaches yesterday. So that is due tonight at 1 minute before midnight. Also exercises 3.2, 3.5, and 3.6. Okay, we're going to look at those in a second. And also the quiz and the module 3. What's the difference between assignment and lab?
Oh, I think the assignment is the exercises, and then the module 3 lab is the.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
The assignment is the exercises, right?
Yeah.
And the lab is
the coffee and
the
muffin.
coffee and the muffin thing. Okay, so that's all due tonight. Normally I won't have 3 things due tonight, but I think you guys can handle it. So this is what I want to try to get through today. We'll see if we can do it. So I want to introduce you to lists. I want to go over pseudocode a little bit. I want to go into the range function. Remember we saw the range function with just one argument, right? Now I want to show you that you can pass range 2 arguments or 3 arguments. If we have time, we'll go over nested for loops, break and continue statements, short circuit evaluation with compound Boolean expressions. That sounds crazy. It's not that complicated. And sentinel controlled iteration. We'll know if we'll get to everything today, but we'll try. Okay, so I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger for you guys. There we go. Okay. So the book screwed up again. Did anybody try? So this is 3.2. This is one of the things that's due tonight. And basically, what you guys can do is you can type all this up in a Python script, a .py file, and just submit that with everything in it. Or you can just type it up in a text file and submit it. I'd do it in Python if I was you to make sure it works. Or put it in a Word document, convert it to a PDF, whatever you want, but I'll take anything. But does anybody see anything wrong with this? Did anybody try to put that in Python and run it?
It's fine.
It works fine, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. Angel.
I was confused by that too. The only thing I was able to come up with was, isn't it bad to have the same statement for different variables? In case you want to change B, you don't have to change A.
Oh, you mean this one right here?
Yeah.
No, this is you guys haven't seen this notation yet, have you? Did I show you guys this? This is just a shorthand way to assign a bunch of variables in one line. So this is perfectly fine. Yeah, because you could say, smart. You could say, you could also just say A equals 7, and on the next line B equals 7, right? That works, but it's easier to say, if they're both the same number, A equals B equals 7. That does, it's just a shorthand, it's a little quicker. Okay, so these are equivalent, it's the same thing. But there's nothing wrong with this. I think what they meant to say is for that second part, I think they meant to say 2 backslashes in B equals, and then a single quote, comma, B. I think this is what they meant to say, was 2 backslashes. So this isn't gonna do what you think it's gonna do, right? This is actually gonna print out, that's an escape character, it's gonna print out backslash in. And it's not gonna give you a new line, okay? So basically this, there's nothing wrong with it. It prints out the text string A equals, then 7, then a new line on the next line, then it prints B equals 7. So it's A equals 7, B. It prints out this. Right here. So there's nothing wrong with this. So you got a freebie right there. If else, okay. Hang on a second. I'm gonna scroll through this real fast so you guys can see the answer.
Hey, where'd it go?
Okay, that's not. Does anyone have, let's see, let me pull this up for a second. Give me 1 second here, guys. Where's my, let's go to 3.2 again, 3. Let's go to the exercises. And that one was figure 2.1, okay. If else, all right. Let's see if I can pull this up for you.
Oh, that's right.
Okay, so, is this big enough for you guys to see? Make it a little bigger. Can't get it all on the same page, can it? Yeah, there we go, all right. All right, so what they want you to do on this one is, there's a bunch of if-thens. If-then, 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 if-then. They want you to convert this to if, then, else, okay? So, let me see if you guys can help solve the first one here. And they want you to convert, is there 6 statements here? 6 if-thens? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They want you to convert it into 3 if-then elses. So, I think as a class, we can solve the very first one, if you guys help me, and then that will help you do the rest, okay? So, you just have to look at what it's trying to do. It's saying, is number 1 equal to number 2? So basically it's prompting the user to just enter 2 integers. It's converting them to integer right here. And then it's gonna say, is the first one equal to the second one? If so, it's gonna print it. If not, it's gonna say it's not equal. Okay, so you know these 2 can be paired together. So, starting on line 13, you guys help me rewrite that. So I'm gonna say, I'm gonna write down what it has. If number 1 equals, 2 equals, number 2, then we're gonna say print, number 1 is equal, oops, tab in, print, number 1, are they using text? No, just number 1. 1 is equal to, that's a text string, comma, number 2. And we begin. Okay, so how would I write the next 2 lines? Using an else. We know we're gonna have an else right here. And we know we're gonna have a print here. If it's equal, it prints out this. Otherwise, if it's not equal,
Okay.
it's not equal,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, you should put a not equals here, or like,
No, we know. It's either this, it's either equal or it's not, right? So else means it's not equal. You don't have to say. You don't even have to check to see if it's not equal, right? You don't even need the not equal operator, right? Goodness gracious. That's better. Number one is not equal to number two. Right? So there's your answer, and this is the tab. So we've converted two if-thens into one if-then else. That makes sense? You guys following that? If it's equal, we print that. Anything else means it's not equal, right? It's just the opposite. It's like saying not. So that's how you solve the rest of these, pretty much. Okay? Any questions? Okay, cool. Let's look at the next one. And I wanted you guys to, okay, this is the Turing test. Okay. So let's, okay, so this is your, there we go. So there's this famous guy named Alan Turing, British mathematician. If you ever watch, I think it's Oppenheimer, that movie. I think they talk about Turing. You ever heard of him, Micah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's the Imitation Game.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, he came up with this, this is a long time ago, he came up with a simple test to determine whether a machine could exhibit intelligent behavior. And one of his tests was if the user sits at a computer and does the same text chat with a human sitting at a computer, and a computer operating by itself, the user, if you don't know which one, if there is a wall there, and here's a computer by itself, here's one with a guy sitting there answering you, and the computer answering you. If you don't know which one it is, then he said that computer has intelligence. Okay. So you need to write a little script, and it's not that hard, that plays the part of the independent computer giving its user a simple medical diagnosis. The script should prompt the user with, what is your problem? Okay, so I'm going to help you with this. So how do we prompt the user? How would we do that?
input.
Input?
Yeah.
Okay. We could just say, input, what is your problem, right? Now they're saying, when the user answers and presses enter, the script should simply ignore it. So we really don't want to assign this to anything. We don't care. Normally we would put a variable there, but we don't care about that. So we could just say input, or we could just replace this with the word print, right? So that's prompted the user. And then prompt the user again, have you had this problem before? Right, so now we want the answer. So what would be our next line in here? Are we going to use input this time? Have you had this problem before? Yes or no? So we're waiting for the user to type in yes or no, so we need to assign it to a variable, right? So we might say response equals input. Have you had this problem before? Right? So the response, and then I'm gonna let you guys figure out the rest. If the user enters yes, print well, you have it again. If the user answers no, print well, you have it now. So that's gonna be an if statement, right? So you're gonna be checking response. This is supposed to be yes or no, right? And they're telling you to put it in lowercase. So you can kind of assume that it's gonna be lowercase. But we could use the lower function to convert response to lower. So I've given you the first 2 lines. There's only about 4 more lines and you're done. It's not that big. It looks like it's gonna be a lot of work, but it's really not. Okay, so that's what's due tonight. And then would this conversation convince you that the entity at the other end exhibited intelligent behavior? So that's a question for you guys. So any questions on that? Okay, good. All right, so let's get back into what I want to cover today. And then I have an in-class assignment for you. Where are we at? Okay, so let's look at lists. I don't think we've gone over lists a lot. So let's look at this. Let's look at lists. We're going to spend a whole chapter on lists, but I want to just give you a little bit about lists today, enough to solve the pseudocode problem once we get to pseudocode. So a list, these are lists, or some people call them arrays. And they are data structures. And what's a data structure mean? It stores data. We need some place to store data, right? We can't just, we could do it. We could just assign a bunch of variables like, we could call it num1, num2, num3, equals 0, equals 1, equals -1, num4, equals 5, num5, equals 3, whatever. We could do this. These are all variables that are storing integers. Or we can create a list. And I'll just call it my list for now. Equals, and you use square brackets. And we could say 0, and they're all separated by commas, 1, -1, 5, and 3. So instead of having 5 variables, now we just have 1 that's actually storing everything in it. Okay? And you might ask, okay, I've got this list, how do I get the values out? How would I get the very first value out?
Range? Or no?
It's similar. It's similar.
Okay.
It's similar. So we need to know how to get these things out of here, right? So we could say, you could use a for loop, and you could say for I in my list, print I. And you guys could try this if you want. This is called an iterable also. Sorry, I'm writing this small. It means you can iterate over it, meaning you can look at each one of these things by itself and iterate it in a for loop. So this would be one iteration. So this would print out 0, then 1, then -1, then 5, then 3. So this is a for loop that's gonna loop over every value in my list. Okay, so that's one way to get the values out. What's another way? How would I, if I just wanted to print the 0 out?
Does it have a value like 0 or 1?
Yeah, good question. You're getting there. So I want to print my list. How do I access the individual elements of a list?
With the.
These are called elements. Okay. Anybody have a thought?
Put a number in the square brackets.
A number in the square bracket. Okay. So what if I wanted to get the first one? What do you think that would be?
1 or 0.
0 or 1?
I think it starts at 1 and not 0.
I think it starts at 0.
It starts at 0.
It starts
Okay.
at 0, so that, in this case, 0 is 0, but 1 is,
2.
Yeah.
but 1
Okay,
is 1.
so-
Negative 1 is 2.
Yeah, so the way you get to these things is called indexes. So the first index is 0, always starts at 0, then 1, then 2, then 3, then 4. Okay. So indexes, so index 0, and we could also call it my list sub 0. If you were saying it to somebody, you would say my list sub 0. So let's put a 0 here. That's gonna print out, in this case, 0. And if I wanna print out, how about the last element
Before.
would be what? What's my index for the very last element?
4.
4, yeah. And that's gonna print out 3. So I would say my list sub 4, if I was telling somebody. I'd say print out my list sub 4. Okay. So you can use a for loop and just iterate over it, or if you need to get one specifically, you could just print it out using the index. So we're indexing into the list, right? You could also say, like I showed you before, you could use the min or max. You could say print min function of my list. And what's the minimum of this one? What's the smallest number?
-1.
-1. And if I wanted to print the maximum, what's the largest number in there?
5.
5, good. All right, so that's a built-in reducer. It's a built-in function that automatically calculates the minimum of a list. You could have a list that's 1,000 items long. Okay, so lists or arrays are data structures. And could I do this? I'll call it a list. 0, the letter A, 3.5. Can I mix data types in a list?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the beauty of Python. I can put whatever I want in here. I could even do this. B list equals, let's say 0. I could put another list in here. Isn't that weird? So I can put a list as an element, which is cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so all these things are allowed in Python. Okay,
Those can be strings too, right? Oh yeah, you already
that's a
demonstrated that
string.
with
It's a
A.
string of one character, yeah. But you could put a whole string of, my country 'tis of thee, whatever, big sentence. Okay. All right, so that's the basic introduction for lists. So do you guys understand lists a little bit? How do you think I would make an empty list? Can I erase this one?
Just commas?
What if I wanted to just make an empty list? So I'll say C list now equals, just use the square brackets like that. It's empty,
Oh.
there's nothing in it.
Yeah.
just 2 square brackets. Right. Then how would I add things to this? I would say CList dot append. There's an append function. I could put the string 5. And it would add 5 into that list. And if I kept doing appends, it keeps adding them to the end.
Can you add like before a number?
Yeah, you can. You would say CList dot insert at position 0, the number 3.14. So that would say, that would put in, oh, this is CList 3.14. And then if I ran this append, suppose I ran this after that, then that would put a comma and put the string 5 in there. Yeah, so you can insert things or you can append. Append means adding to the end. Insert means I can stick it in here anywhere I want. And as long as I know the index, I have to give it the index number and then the value that I want to go in there. Okay. Yeah, good question. Lists are very cool. Lists and arrays are very cool data structures that are built into Python. Make it really useful. Okay? Yep, I know we're not going to cover everything. It takes longer than I thought. Let's look at pseudocode for a second. We looked at that. Do you guys remember? I don't know if it was the very first class. It might have been. When I asked you guys to describe in words, like a recipe, how you would go fill your tank up with, your car up with gas. Do you remember that? I don't know. Was that the first class?
Yeah. It was.
So that was pseudocode. That was we're speaking in English instead of Python. Okay. So let's look at pseudocode for a second. Pseudo means false, false code. Okay. And there's a pseudocode in the book, and I think I have it in here somewhere. Let's see, where's this? Okay, cool. Let's look at this for a second. See if we can solve this one in pseudocode. So, let me just make it a little bigger. Okay, here's a problem. Let's see if we can write the solution in pseudocode. And then once you get the pseudocode, it's easy to convert that to Python. So a class of 10 students took a quiz. Their grades are integers in the range of 0 to 100. Okay, so the quiz is worth 100 points. And these are the grades of all the 10 students. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. Determine the class average on the quiz. All right. So let's try to write this in plain English first. Okay, see if you guys can help me. Okay. So we know about lists now too, right? So let's use a list first, but let's write it in pseudocode. Okay, so we might say something like assign quiz results to a list. Okay, that's just English. So now we have a list. Then what do we do? We want to get the average, right? So how do you get the average? You have to do what?
You have to
Add up all of them?
all the grades divided by
The number, the total number, right?
Yeah, the total number of grades.
Okay. So what's a good way to add up all these if we know we have them in a list? Would that imply a loop to you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's say loop over the list and keep a running sum. Right? Okay. And we also need to keep a count too, right? Keep a running sum and the count. Right? So we're gonna start adding. So as we keep looping, we're gonna look at the first one, and then we're gonna look at the second one and add it, and look at the third one. But each time we look at one, we've got to add one to the count, so we know how many. We don't know right away that there's 10. We could write this program that'll take any amount, okay? So we're gonna loop over the list, keep a running sum and a count, and then at the very end, what are we gonna print out? Or actually, in pseudocode, we try not to use real Python. We use the word display instead of print. Display the average, right? That's what we want.
Prints in so many languages though.
And the average is just what? The sum divided by count, right? Sum divided by count, right? All right. So there's our little pseudocode. That's pretty good. All right. So you guys help me write this in Python code now. Okay. So what should we call our first list?
Student grades.
Okay, I like it. Student grades equals, we're gonna make it a list. Guys, just read them off to me, I can't see them.
98.
Yeah,
76,
76?
71, 87,
What is it?
87.
87? Okay,
83.
yeah.
90. 57.
Mhm.
79. 82. And 94.
Okay, there we go. There's our list. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so how do we loop over a list? First of all, we're gonna have two variables here called sum and count. And in Python, we have to initialize variables. So we could use our little trick, sum equals count. What should we initialize it to? What's a good starting point for variables?
Zero.
0. Right, so that sets our sum and our count to 0. Right. Okay. And then how would we loop over this? For, we could use I in
student grades.
student grades. Grades, okay, good. So now we're gonna hit each one of these, okay? So what are we gonna do? We're gonna say the sum equals sum plus what? I, right? Because I is gonna be 98, then I is gonna be 76.
Equals equals.
No, we're assigning now, we're assigning. We're assigning.
Okay, I thought it was assigned in sum equals count equals 0.
So
Okay.
this is, yeah, we're assigning right here. We're just, this would be an initialization.
Okay, we're still reassigning it.
This is initializing. So you have to initialize these variables, otherwise they don't exist. You couldn't just say sum equals sum right here, because you have to set it to a value first before you use it in Python. Okay. Initializing variables. Okay, so this is gonna get our running sum. Could we use an augmented assignment here instead? You guys remember augmented assignment?
Yeah.
Shorthand notation? Do you remember the plus equals I? That's the same thing, right? Sum equals sum plus I. So this is just gonna add up everything, and it's gonna be stored here. And then how would we increment count each time? We just wanna add 1 to count, right, each time? So how would we do that with augmented assignment? We know it's gonna be plus equal, right? What are we adding to count each time? 1, yeah. So count starts at 0. Each time we go through, we're adding 1 to it. So once we're down here out of the for loop, we're right here, we're already done. We've got our sum and our count, and we can just print out, right? We could say class average of, if we wanted to be kind of cool, of count values, and put a colon and a space, would be sum divided by count. Actually, we could even be a little smarter and print, to do a formatted print, but that would be it right there. So we've written our pseudocode, and you guys can type all this into Python and try it, and this should print out your class average of those 10 values. And this is the augmented assignment. Another thing in pseudocode I didn't show you, if you're trying to get input from the user, you just use the word input. So you might say input whatever, name, you might say that. So display is used instead of print, input is used in kind of the same way as input is used in Python, but this means prompt the user to input a name. So this is just pseudocode. It's just like written in English, and it's a good. I still use pseudocode when I'm trying to write really complicated programs. I will write it out in English first in pseudocode and say, man, what am I really trying to do here? It's easier to write in English. Okay, any questions? I'm going to give you guys a break until 5 till. Any questions on lists and pseudocode at all?
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
So for the list, I think that we use I like could you go over again about what I is like the I?
Yes.
For the list stuff.
Yeah. I right here.
Yeah.
This is one case where you don't have to say I equals 0 up here first, okay? Like you do with other variables.
Yeah.
So I is called the looping variable. Yeah. It's a good question. And most people use I in the for loop for some reason. So I is going to get set to the very first value, and then it's going to do what's indented here. And there might be a bunch of things. And then it's going to come back, and I is going to get set to the next one. And then it's going to do whatever's in here. Then it's going to get set to the third one, because it's an iterable. It's going to iterate through. It's going to go to each one, then I is going to be 5, then I is going to become 3, and it's going to do whatever's in there, and then it's done, because we're at the end of the list. So I is just a looping variable. You could call it, some people call it J. And then I'll get into nested for loops when we get back to it. That's a for loop within a for loop.
And could we use any other does it have to be I or
Yeah, you could call it quizzes. Over here we could say for quiz. Yeah, could be any variable.
Okay.
Quiz in that, and then instead of I here we would use the word quiz. Yeah, it doesn't have to be I.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, for quiz in student grades. So the first quiz would be 98. And 0 plus 98 is 98. The sum starts out at 0. Comes back up, quiz is 76. Then it says 98 plus 76 is whatever that would be, 174, I think? Or no, I don't know. Can't do that in my head right now. So yeah, just keep looking through. Oh, there, yeah. Yeah, so go walk around, stand up, whatever. Come back at 5 till. Keep rolling. Yeah. You need to rewrite this. Instead of 6 if thens, you need to write 3 if else. Yeah, so did you see what we did earlier? It's already been erased, but you remember it. So this is just gonna be, this is gonna, you're just gonna replace line 13 with an else. Alright, so it's this thing, is it equal? Print that. Else, print that. You don't even need to check if it's not equal. You already know when you use else, that's everything else. And then put a colon. And then hit enter. And then delete line 14. And then line 14 above it. Delete. There you go. And then you can delete. Excuse me, line 12. Yep. So there you combine 2 into 1. Do the same with those. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do that.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Just gonna write it, yeah. Yeah, so this is, yeah, these two lines
The top line.
Yeah,
Yeah.
line, this one is saying it's less than, so it's not less than, it's greater than. It's actually greater than.
Yeah, I'm sure. That should probably, they'll talk about it. Maybe
This
she'll
one's saying
go
less
over
than
some
or equal.
thing. But yeah, I spent a lot of time studying this.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Makes sense? Yeah. Yeah. You're gonna get to print it? Well, you're gonna print a line, and I'm gonna print the string that says line top and notch. So let me see. Yeah, so you gotta see, so under that, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right, I'll just keep going. Yeah, that's gonna print out a line by itself. Yeah, but now you're gonna need your variables. Right, so. Yes, yes, so you're gonna use a print statement until the variables. So you can still use a print, and you're gonna say, yeah. Yeah, but use the variables. Use print, parentheses, then, number of copies, comma, Georgia. Okay, and then, yes, no, you don't want to switch here, you want to add these. Okay, then, and then, now it's gonna be your request. Okay, so that's gonna be your substitute. Oh, copy sub, that's gonna be copy sub. And get rid of that. Okay. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? Yeah, so you're plugging in the numbers and the text. Mhm. Anybody else need help? Okay. Oh, where's the questions at? Oh, yeah, have to go to the very end, so go to, click that little over there, table of contents, and scroll down a little, and it's under the exercises. There's 3.2. Yeah. It works, yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. Yeah, and that one is based on figure 2 and 1, we already looked at that. Okay. And then this is the touring, so we already got your part of that. What is your problem?